Hi, I'm Ben Reeves, New York Times bestselling author of Everything Was Beautiful and Nothing Hurt, published in several countries, and this is a writing course. If you have any questions about writing or any questions about my books, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them in another video. If you haven't already watched the introduction, I recommend having a look at that. Today's topic is my journey, and this isn't scripted, I've just got a few notes. So let's get into it. So my journey, my writing journey. I'm going to try and take you through it fairly quickly. But I've been writing since I was a kid, as a lot of writers do. I really enjoyed. I used to love it in school when they would say we're going to write stories today. It was always felt really, really fun, and it just felt special, and it felt like play. By the time I was sort of 12, I would write little stories, and I'd try and write finished stories that were a good few pages long, and I'd show them to my best friend at the time. And I just enjoyed it. It felt like I was creating my own world. It felt like, for a kid who can't make films or video games, it was like this was my way of building my own world and having fun with it. Around 16, I started trying to write some longer finished novels. And then by the time I was 18, I started writing probably my first proper finished novel. And I think when I was about 21, maybe 20, that was finished. And I thought it was really good. And in hindsight, it obviously wasn't. And in my 20s, I wrote various other books, maybe 4 or 5 more books, until I was about 27. And I thought I was going to get published. Essentially, I went to a festival called the Festival of Writing in York, which is run by Jericho Writers. And I got shortlisted for 2 competitions, Best 500 Words and Best Opening Chapter. And for Best 500 Words, I had to read my work out in front of a whole room of people. And I was really nervous. I read through it really quickly, and I didn't do very well. And I didn't win, but one of the judges was an agent, and on the Monday after the festival, I reached out to her and said, I don't know if you remember me, I was one of the finalists for the thing, and I'd love to send you my work. And she said yes, and we met up in London, and she became my agent, and it was one of the best times of my life, and it was so exciting. And eventually that just kind of went wrong, and she fell out of love with the manuscript, and she really tried to help me, and she even employed an editor to sort of work with me, but we just couldn't get it off the ground. And in hindsight, again, it was absolutely the right decision. It was not good enough, and I was not a good enough writer to know how to fix it. But at the time I was devastated because it felt like I was finally breaking into this thing and getting close, and it just all fell apart, and I was very very sad, and it took me a long time to get over that. I keep saying in hindsight, but in hindsight, it really was the best thing that could have happened, because Everything Was Beautiful and Nothing Hurt is the one that absolutely was the right one to take off. So from about that age, for a while, for maybe a couple of years, I tried to fix that novel, and I'd send it to the agent again, and it wasn't ready, and it wasn't right, and that book will probably never see the light of day. And then in my 30s, I think around COVID, I started this channel, started making videos about writing, and I decided I'd maybe try and self-publish a little fantasy series or something, just so that if I self-publish, I would get something out there into the world. So I did that. I wrote 2 and got kind of bored with it. And I wrote a few others, and each one I felt like I was getting better, and each one I thought, this is the one that's going to get published, and each one I thought, this is the best thing I can write. Until 2023, when I wrote Everything Was Beautiful and Nothing Hurt, I entered it into a competition at the start of 2024, won the competition towards the end of 2024, and got an agent from that. And then 2025 was all about finding publishers, editing the manuscript, and then finally in 2026, this year, it's been published and made bestseller and all sorts of things. And people reach out to me all the time saying how much they love it. So that is essentially, in a nutshell, very quickly, my journey. I owe a lot to competitions. Both times you'll notice in that story, it was through competitions that I achieved any kind of success. It wasn't through the slush pile. I'm either really bad at writing cover letters and synopses, or I'm just or competitions are just a good way of doing it, because you sort of, there's a different dynamic. You're not in a slush pile. You're in a pile of entries that you've possibly paid to enter, and the person really, really wants to find that best entry because they need a winner for the competition. Maybe the slush pile kind of works like that. They are trying to find the best books, but there's, I feel like with competition, they really, really are looking for that winner. So if you can rise above the rest by writing a really good novel, then you might get some success with competitions. So this, I've already mentioned it in the introduction video, which I recommend you watch. But this is a series all about trying to help you in 5 years. It took me 20, but in 5 years to get you to a point where you're ready to then write the novel that's going to get published. It won't take me 5 years to make all these videos. It's just that the course is split into 5 years. There will be a playlist probably in the comments below. And if you have any questions about writing, I think I've already said this, but if you have any questions about writing or about my books, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them in a later video. So the next topic, I believe, will be starting out, and it'll be year one. So we're going to start with year one, which is all about play. Year one is play. And we're going to look at starting out and why we write and what should you write and things like that. And all of it is just my opinion, but hopefully you take something from it. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.